It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Mock Draft Monday, everybody. We are back for the Monday edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Draft preparation continues with another breakdown of every single pick Steele and I are going to make on today's episode. Thank you for joining us for the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Let's tap in.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back from the weekend, fantasy fanatics, to your source for fantasy breakdowns in the NHL world, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, joined as always by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele, wrote in for another special Mock Draft Monday episode. We're going live round through round to make sure all the analysis for this upcoming draft is covered for y'all to dominate this league. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. And also, Steele and I are in the second position, Steele. And which spot are you in for this mock draft? Because it's about to get spicy in here once again.
I am in the 12th position. We are switching things around. You were in the 4th. I was in the 8th in the first edition of the mock draft that we're doing this offseason.
Yep.
We are switching things up. You were at the top of the food chain. I'm at the bottom of the food chain.
Okay.
But yeah, round 2, mock draft 2.0. Very excited about it.
And I'm in the second slot, Steele. You want to share this screen because we're about to start this bad boy.
Yeah, I'll get it up for all the fans out there watching on. We're going to get it up, get things going right now. Let's get the proper screens available.
And if you're not on YouTube, you make sure you head over there, smash that subscribe button. We are going to be here all season long. It's not just the draft prep. Steele and I are going to be hitting that waiver wire Monday episodes. We're going to have our bets, predictions, and of course breakdowns on the fantasy hockey world all season long. Steele, we're just getting heated up, and honestly, I keep saying it, but you and I are so jazzed up for our listener league. Hockey is real close. This is when you and I start to get into that mode where all we think about, we eat, sleep, and dream fantasy hockey.
This is what we do. This is what we do, and this is what we do for all the fans and listeners out there, so we can get you prepared to dominate your fantasy hockey leagues. 20 seconds from the first pick right now, and again, it's most likely going to be Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl going second. If you slip up and don't take Draisaitl second, I might have to slap you across the head here, Flip.
Steele, and you should. And I don't know, how many years have we actually gone into drafts and been this certain about the 1 and 2? Maybe we'll talk about that in between our picks, but it's so cemented 1 and 2 as McDavid and Draisaitl. And in the same breath, as I do take Leon Draisaitl here with the second pick, which isn't obvious, the Edmonton Oilers have on their hands here, Steele, a very capable crew of players to take this team to the next level. And they've been knocking on the door. And I mean, next level is the Stanley Cup. So I think there's a lot to like about some of these peripheral pieces in Edmonton. You've talked about Darnell Nurse. We've talked about Stuart Skinner. I think there's realistic expectations that this team is a very serious threat for the Cup this year.
Yeah, they are. Most definitely they are. And I actually wanted to bring that up because our good friend Michael Amato just released his top 250 fantasy hockey ranking. And he actually had Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, number 46th on that list. And I know you were fading him quite a bit. Do you think 46 was a little too high, or do you think Michael Amato was right with his selection there at number 46 for
really good point, Steele. And I know that actually he mentioned the power play connection and where the value still obviously comes. So I actually don't disrespect it. I think it's still slightly high, but I don't think that's not too far off. I just don't want people to start reaching for him in the 3rd and 4th round. I really do think it's like a 5, 6, 7 situation, depending on the format. But you're up in the 12th spot. This is a snake draft. You're going to go back to back. Why don't you explain what you're doing here?
This is a snake draft. I'm going back to back here, and I think I'm going to go for a right winger and a left winger right off the start. I really like Tage Thompson being there, but I'm going to go back to the well and a guy that I really like with Mikko Rantanen, a top goal scorer the last few years, cracking 100 points. So I'm going to hit the draft button right now and get him on my right wing selection here. And I'm also going to go to the left wing spot. And I think you know who I'm going to go to. My boy, Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild, just the top dog for the Minnesota Wild. And again, just really gets it done offensively. 40 goals, 35 assists, 32 power play points, shoots the puck, hits, blocks. I really love his game. And again, he's going to be the face alongside Matt Boldy for many years of the Minnesota Wild.
And for those who aren't watching along on YouTube, this is a draft with 2 center slots, 2 left wing slots, 2 right wing slots, 4D, 2 goalies, and 4 bench slots. And it is a 12 GM league here, Steele, we're doing. So just to set that context a little bit for our listeners out there, this is one of those times of year, Steele, that I think running through these is very important, not only for us, but for every GM that's out there, experienced or otherwise, just to get a little bit of a feel, a little bit of a sense for what's going on. I'm on the board here. This is the second round, I'm going 24th overall here, Steele, and I want to pick up another elite offensive piece. Tim Stutzla's on this board. William Nylander, I think, might be projected a little bit too high. Rupe Hintz, I'm high on. I'll take my pick and I'll explain it because also I'm going to be back-to-back picks here. Whew. Here, Steele. Look, this is brought to you by Miller Lite. No, I'm going to take Tim Stutzla. I've talked a lot about the Ottawa Senators. There's some other names on that board, maybe Braden Point. I'm going to take Stutzla, and then I'm going to be back up in 2 more picks. But what do you think about that one? That's the second round, by the way, Steele. That might be a little high for him.
I don't know if it's actually quite high. I think we've talked about that. I think the second round is perfectly fine for Tim Stutzla. The offensive ability is there. The peripheral stats are, of course, there for a guy like this of his caliber as well. And this Ottawa Senators team has so much talent up front that when he's healthy, which he is right now, he dominates and he loves to dominate the game and dominate in the offensive zone. Did you just go Artemi Panarin with that third round pick?
I did, Steele, and this is where I actually wanted to break this down quick before you get back to what you were just explaining. Is this draft, I feel this year, there are so many good teams now trying to make that step out. And you were just talking about the Ottawa Senators a little bit. I'm trying to buy into the teams that I really feel have the best shot this year. This isn't like rocket science. And I'm going to go back to the well on the Rangers and the left wing spot. I know we've talked a little bit about the right wing spot maybe being a little bit shallow in terms of options. I love what Artemi Panarin can bring. And looking at these projections on Yahoo, we are drafting on Yahoo. Make sure you do your research, everyone, because I don't know about how accurate these rankings are. But I feel okay about taking a guy in Panarin who I think you also love.
I like him a lot. Sometimes he gets a little bit streaky with the offensive game. Sometimes
peripherals aren't always there as well.
Yeah, the peripherals aren't there. He's not a hitter. He's not a blocker, but he does shoot the puck. He needs to shoot the puck a little bit more. Still up there, but he's a passer. You get a lot of your points from the assists and the power play points that Panarin facilitates through his teammates. A lot of those studs up there, Chris Kreider, Mika Zibanejad, even those young guys that we've talked about in Philip Hedl and Capo Caco and Vincent Trocheck on that second line. I am back up right now with my third round selection. 2 picks in a row. I'm going to go back to the well once again. This is the great thing about, doing these mock drafts and seeing the different orders or the different players wherever you're selecting from. I was drafting 8th in the mock draft 1.0 edition. And again, it's just great to see the difference of where you're drafting and who the players are still available and all of that. I'm actually going to go. I think I'm going to go to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on this one. I actually don't have a defense. I am going to go to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He has that dual eligibility. He has the center and the left wing position. So that is an A+ as well. The power play points and with 42 points, but yeah, I think I'm going to go Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. It might be a little bit high. I agree with you. It might be a little bit high, but that dual eligibility, I like it.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers on the power play last year, Steele clicked at 32%. That was historically good. And that's where I think my take on, I just can't see him replicating what he did last year, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be valuable. And especially when you look at those power play numbers, we know the Edmonton Oilers are going to put up points and goals. So I'm here for your draft pick. How is that man going to replicate it? That's kind of the angle.
It's going to be hard.
A bit with Josh Morrissey as well. Anyway, I'm up on the board here. We got players going like Stamkos, Aho. We're in the 4th round. Quinn Hughes. I got Draisaitl, Stützle, and Aaron. I want to maybe start considering a goalie, but I definitely need one of my favorite targets on the blue line this year. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I'm looking at blue liners in this draft right now. In the 4th round, we got Erik Karlsson, McAvoy, Josh Morrissey, Evan Bouchard, which I'd consider as well, Steele. I'm going with Miro Heiskanen.
I knew it. I knew you were going with that. That was going to be my next pick. I need a defenseman on my team right now. I am without one. And I just had a weird feeling you were going to go with Miro Heiskanen, but that's exactly where he should be falling. He should be going in the 5th or 4th round. He's an absolute stud. The Dallas Stars team is just incredible right now.
And I'm starting to love what's going on in Dallas. And I'm back on the clock in the 5th round, Steele. I personally get a little apprehensive about goaltenders. So I want to take a goaltender now because that market is thinning. I'm going back to the same guy that I did in our first mock draft. I like what's going on with Philip Gustafsson as a true number 1. And I'm going to take him again, maybe perhaps a little bit early. And I did that in our first mock draft, but I really don't think he should be sliding much farther than the 6th or 7th round in most formats because he is a bona fide number 1 in my opinion. And I think they so badly want in Minnesota him to take that crease as the true number 1.
Yeah, I believe so as well. They were trying to get that deal done. They finally signed him to that 3-year, I believe 3.4, 3.5. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head,
Sounds
but
close. Yeah.
I believe they want him to be that number 1 guy. And again, having Marc-Andre Fleury, a Stanley Cup champion, a Hall of Famer, everything that he's done internationally as well, having him as that mentor to develop Philip Gustafsson's game is just going to be even better for both Gustafsson and the Minnesota Wild.
931 save percentage last year, Steele, and 3 shutouts. I think with a little bit more opportunity, I think that was the scratching of the surface for him. And I know I've been a little wishy-washy on my takes with the Wild, so I don't want to forget that. But I really do love what he's going to put up this year. Now you're back on the board with 2 picks. And by the way, I love having the last pick in a snake draft.
And I'll get to my 5th round pick and 6th round pick while Flip is letting everyone know about our sponsors. And then I'll get back to my analysis with these 2 picks.
And we're going to show some love for our friends at FanDuel because today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Football season is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl and get bonus bets for every single regular season victory. Bets you can use on spreads, props, over-unders, and everything else. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started with bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon.
NFL Sunday Ticket is now on YouTube and YouTube TV, which means that you can stay close to your team even if you don't live in their town. Like maybe you're a Raven who married a Seahawk who got a job in the land of the Falcons. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you can watch your team's out-of-market Sunday afternoon games no matter where you live, because you shouldn't have to change teams, even if you change towns. NFL Sunday Ticket, now on YouTube and YouTube TV. Go to youtube.com/presale to get $50 off.
Terms and embargoes apply. Offer ends 9/19. No refund. Subscription auto renews.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all that love and support you show us. Hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Again, if you want to be a part of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Listener League, we got 2 separate leagues, casual and competitive. Make sure you're DMing us your info, your full name, and your email so we can add you onto the list. Again, the cutoff date is September 20th. The draft date will be September 27th and the 28th for the casual and competitive league. We are super excited about it. That's why we're doing these mock drafts right now, so we can get prepared ourselves. Depending on where we're drafting them, we don't know what the draft order is going to be like right now. So we're going to have to do all the research and all the preparation before that time. But again, if you want to be a part of it, make sure you're DMing us.
100%, and much love to everyone who has already shown interest. Steele, you've been on the board twice. We got to get back to it. I'm back on the board. I don't have a right winger yet, and you and I have talked about addressing positions at a very proper rate. You never want to let one slide too late. I love balancing it out. I don't think this is like a crazy strategy. This just makes sense, and I think you'll back me up there. So I'm looking at the right wing position. Nakash, Kempe, Reinhardt. I love Drake Batherson. I think Ottawa is going to score. Pair him with Stutzla. I'm taking Drake Batherson here in the 6th round. I think he's going to put up a lot of points. And actually, the peripherals are pretty good. 115 hits last year. Shots on goal are up as well. I'm almost back up, but I think you like my take on Drake.
I like the Drake analysis. I like the pick as well. Again, you know how I feel about trying to pair up either two guys on the same line or a forward and a defenseman on the same team. To me, especially on a very talented team like the Ottawa Senators, it just screams fantasy points. So whenever you have the chance of scooping two of them up from the same line of the same team, it's always an A+ in my book.
It's one of those things that is there an exact science to that kind of strategy? No, but it just makes sense. Your team that you like to draft from, that you think is going to be successful, why not load up on what makes sense for how this team is going to achieve success? Stutzla, Batherson, you pair them together. Maybe you even look at Jake Sanderson or Thomas Chabot. Is it too bold to think you want to put Korpisalo in that mix too? Maybe you're getting a little carried away, but I don't hate it at all, Steele. And I know you've been hard on me a little bit for this Ottawa Senators love. Maybe I think Buffalo Sabres should be higher on your list in terms of mine. But this Atlantic Division is going to be a spicy one, and I would just like to load up on some of these players on the rise in a division clearly on the rise.
Absolutely. Probably the toughest division in the NHL right now. Just a lot of talent, a lot of young talent at that. And again, you can't go wrong with grabbing guys from the same team or the same line. I need to do something right now. I need to scoop up a left winger, and I'm going to go back to my team over here, and I'm going to take Matt Boldy on the left wing side. I already have Kirill Kaprizov, so I'm going to match those two players up right now and get Kaprizov and Matt Boldy for my left wing positions. I'm going to need to grab a defenseman right now. I think you made a good point about not letting any of those positions fall down the draft board a little bit. I haven't done a great job drafting defensemen right now, so I really need to pick up the slack and draft a top-notch defenseman. Not sure how many are left. Brandon Montour is out right now. I'm going to go to Noah Dobson, actually. I think we talked a lot about him and what we expect and what the New York Islanders expect from him. They need a true number one defenseman to quarterback the power play, be that stud at both in the offensive and defensive zone. So I really like Noah Dobson, and I know you like Noah Dobson as well.
Yeah, and I think he has an opportunity to perhaps seize the reins there. He's already the power play quarterback. Let's just see what this team can do offensively. That's obviously a little bit of a concern there in terms of what the team overall might be able to do. I can't help but like his upside, Steele. And again, this is a standard formatted league. There's 12 again. Help me out here, brother. I think there's
12 GMs.
12 GMs. Here I am with the numbers. This is a standard format league. And at the end of what you're trying to achieve is just a balanced lineup. Noah Dobson leaves a little bit of risk because technically in terms of overall ice time, he might be slightly down that depth chart because of how much defensive hockey the Islanders like to play. But if he can step out a little bit and show how much offense he can bring, which is obviously his game, I love that pick. I'm going to stop talking about it. So I'm back on the board here, baby. And I don't want to let my goaltending slide. And this is one of the spots I wanted to explain very quickly. I've been burned so many times by bad goaltending decisions, and certain leagues place more emphasis on goaltending than others. But it's one of the hardest ones to replace. I want to take a look at Jonas Korpisalo, honestly, Steele, and looking at what's left, Vejmelka and others, Levi, I'm going to take Korpisalo. I'm loading up on Sens here. This is getting spicy. But let me just quickly go.
If I wasn't too sure about it, I think that you're transitioning into an Ottawa Senators fan right now.
Here we go.
Picks right now.
I want to have another goalie because looking at this, Bobrovsky, Levi, Marc-Andre Fleury, Carter Hart, Ville Husso, Cam Talbot, that's who's still on the board here. And as much as there's obviously value to be had there, I'm not exactly loving what I'm seeing. But now that I have a couple of D-men, I've gone to the goaltending, I got my 2 starters, I want to go back up to the offensive group. I want to go to the wing. And I'm loving a lot what's going to probably happen again, Steele, with our boy, Travis Konecny. No, I'm kidding.
Wow.
I want to go for boy Marty. Oh, I got pooched. I was going to go for Dylan Cousins because I want some backup up the middle, but I just got pooched hard. This is going quick again. I'm all over the map.
This is going quick. I actually thought you were leaning towards Kevin Fiala, 28 goals, 48 assists, and 241 shots. That's who I thought you were leaning towards when you were talking about the wing side.
Well, yeah, thank you, because I'm all over the map now. And Kevin Fiala, though, has proven, and this is one of those things I think just dropped today, Steele, the positional updates where your players that you're drafting are available to play. What is there? A couple of these guys have center, right wing, left wing. The different eligibility obviously always plays in, and these will continue to update. So make sure that you are checking in ahead of your draft because that can sometimes be key. And just right there, I got pooched. And someone did just take Fiala, and I think I probably would have been better off doing that. But still, this is why you're here to rein me in, pal.
This is why we're here. We're here to help everybody out there. Even Flip and I are helping each other with the draft board right now. I'm 5 picks away. I'm going to need to draft my second goaltender eventually. I think that's going to be my next pick, Flip. And let's talk about that real quick before it gets to my pick. Bobrovsky, Levi, Fleury, Kochetkov, Hart, Husso, Vejmelka, Binnington. Who do you think should be the next goaltender off the board here?
That got thin very quickly. That's
it did.
Away from
it
that
did.
Deal. Because now you have Bobrovsky, who is a huge risk. You have a rookie. You have a couple of backup situations. And honestly, now Carter Hart's dealing with some of this off-ice issues once again. This is tough, really tough. And honestly, I would probably lean to Devin Levi or maybe even possibly Cam Talbot out of all of those options.
That's exactly who I was going with. I was going with Devin Levi no matter what there. I was thinking about Jakob Markstrom or Devin Levi, but Markstrom got taken a couple of picks before that. But I'm going to go back-to-back Buffalo Sabres here. I picked Devin Levi, and I'm going to go to Dylan Cousins up top. I want that depth in the center position.
Yeah, me
too. I still have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who has that dual eligibility. So technically, I have 3 left wingers and 3 centermen right now. I do need a right winger to fill out that last slot, but then my defensemen are kind of sliding right now. I only have Victor Hedman and Noah Dobson.
This is also one of the situations, Steele, that happens all the time. Also, it's draft season all across the sporting realm. I just had a fantasy football draft. Things can literally come right out from underneath you. And when someone drafts a player that you're looking at, you can get frazzled. It just happened to me, and it can really derail what you're trying to achieve in terms of your quote-unquote plan. To get back to mine, I'm looking at the left wing now. I'm looking at a couple of pieces here, Steele. Arturi Lekkonen's been dealing with injury. Pavel Buchnevich brings question marks. Brandon Hagel, Victor Arvidsson. I think we can all agree, who's listening right now, there's a lot to like about what Brandon Hagel is going to bring to the table offensively. I need a left winger. I'm already, honestly, Steele, this has been a tough draft for me. I've got Panarin on the left wing, and Brendan Hagel is where I'm going to aim for next. The other names on the board, David Perron, Michael Bunting, Anders Lee, JT Compher. This can very quickly, Steele, get away from you. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, because obviously it's getting away from me very quickly here.
Look, this for me, again, I've never been a fan of drafting last. I don't like drafting last in the drafts. I don't like how I still like how this team is shaping out to be, but compared to the mock draft one edition, I like the first mock draft we did and the finish of my team there. And we'll get over to your pick first, but thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. We appreciate all of you out there. Please hit that subscribe, hit the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Again, if you want to be a part of the Fantasy Hockey Listener League, continue to DM us on Twitter with your information, name, and email, and we'll get you added onto that list. But let's get back to Flip's pick over here. Who did you just draft, Flip?
What's up? It's Kaylee Cuoco. When it comes to travel, we all have a happy place. I just went to my happy place. I just went to Maui, and it was truly amazing. Priceline has always been about getting you to your happy place for a happy price with deals you really can't find anywhere else. Like up to 60% off select hotels in Costa Rica or 5-star hotels for 2-star prices in Cabo.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
If you're a business owner, listen up. Your company could be mentioned right here. With the NHL season right around the corner, Locked On has a special locals-only NHL kickoff package. 2 local businesses, yes, only 2 local businesses can sponsor this podcast for the upcoming NHL season. Find out how you can get this exclusive sponsorship and hear your business on this podcast. Text the word advertising to 33777. or visit lockedonpodcasts.com/advertising and let us know who you are. Our team will assist you to achieve advertising success with Locked On. Once again, text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcasts.com/advertising. We look forward to hearing from you.
I took one of the pieces that I think is going to be the most valuable on the Chicago Blackhawks this year, and it is Seth Jones. I know he's dealt with some injury issues. Shots on goal should be right around 200. He can throw the body.
Yeah.
Obviously, plus minus is going to be a concern, but I like loading up on some talent on the blue line while you can because, again, depending on the format, getting those guys on the blue line that do fill out all the peripherals with Seth Jones does that can be tricky. And getting to a draft where, let's say we're in a 12-person league, let's say you're 14 or 16 Steele, these wells are going to dry up real quick. And that is where I would rather take a risk on a guy on a bad team. And I know this Chicago club is going to struggle. I think Seth Jones still brings a lot of peripheral value.
He does bring the peripheral values as well. Again, they are going to struggle, but he is that top defenseman that they have right now. And they signed him to a long-term deal. I'm up on the clock right now, and that's actually I'm heading to the defensive slot as well. I'm going to fill out the last 2 defensive spots for myself. And I think these are absolute steals right now. We were just talking about Jakub Chychrun the other day as well, and about how he's a little bit soft out there, not physicality-wise, but he just can't seem to stay healthy. He hasn't played more than 60 games. He's only played more than 60 games 5 out of the 7 years so far in the league. So I'm going to draft Jakub Chychrun, I think it's a steal right now in the draft, but hopefully he can actually stay healthy and play more than 70, 75 games this upcoming season for the Ottawa Senators team. First full year with the Ottawa Senators. And then I'm going to go back to a defensive slot as well. And that's Shea Theodore, a guy who was injured last year as well. But I don't think Theodore gets enough credit that he deserves.
I agree.
He gets the point totals. He gets the peripheral stats when he's healthy. I really like his game. And again, I think a lot of people underappreciate his value in fantasy hockey.
I agree. And let's not forget that is a still very, very well put together team in Vegas. One that, we have a few question marks about that goaltending duo because what they were able to put together with 4 or 5 different netminders throughout the season, I don't think any team wants to really test that theory ever again. And not to say that they got lucky, Steele, but there are some certain angles that if you look at that team a little closer, maybe that's why Shea Theodore doesn't get some love. I don't think he should get anything less than proper respect as a very valuable fantasy piece. They should also be pretty stingy on defense. So plus minus and just an overall quality of a draft pick. I like him. I'm coming up here with my, what is this now, Steele? We're in the 12th round.
We're in the 12th round.
12th round. I'm taking a look. I need another right winger. There's some interesting names here. Troy Terry, Dawson Mercer, which I really think I'm probably going to pick off the board.
Was just looking at Dawson Mercer now. He also has that dual eligibility center and right wing position,
which is interesting because I'm almost positive he's only going to play the wing. So
he probably will only play the wing.
Yeah, some of these are going to get updated. You got also Matt Barzal for some reason has the wing eligibility, but also we got here Steele Matt Duchene, which could be sneaky. But I'm looking at Dawson Mercer. We've talked about this player. I'm going to be taking him unless this person right ahead of me takes him. Tom Wilson taken here. I'm going to take Dawson Mercer on a really, really good offensive Devils team. So now I have my right wing, my left wing 2, my center 2. I got one spot left for my starting D-man. I'm going to go back to the D board, Steele, and then we can start breaking down some of our bench spots. I'm going to continue to talk about it. I don't even really think it's a bad take. Keandre Miller last year led the New York Rangers in 5-on-5 ice time. He was right up there with shooting percentage for some of the best D-men in the league. He brings the body. He's coming into his own. I'm not trying to sell you, Steele. I'm trying to make sure the listeners know. Keandre Miller, make sure he's on your roster. I'm going to take him right now, which I think a really good spot. 13th round, I'm taking him.
I think so as well. And I'm actually eyeing another defenseman who was slotted just below him as well, Gustav Forsling. Someone made a comment on the YouTube channel the other day as well about Gustav Forsling and what to expect from him this upcoming season. I really like Forsling as well. I've mentioned him in a couple of episodes last year heading into the draft season. And again, he made a great point that with Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour injured right now, Forsling is going to get a ton of minutes on the power play as well, just overall average ice time. So Forsling is another defenseman to look out for who has some offensive upside to his game. And look at that. He gets drafted right as I'm speaking about him, 150th overall. But again, that's what you got to look out for. Those opportunities for some of those younger guys where it's sort of not entering their prime right away, but developing their game. They're growing their game with their organizations. And Forsling and Keandre Miller are two of those guys who have really stepped up over the last 2 years.
And sometimes those opportunities obviously correlate to perhaps a player getting a little bit up there in age, perhaps some injury factors. And I think maybe those injury factors on the blue line for the Florida Panthers actually do play in to the value of Forsling's value going up, because he's going to probably have to log even more minutes, Steele, at least to start this season. It looks like Ekblad and probably Montour are going to miss some time. So maybe even it's just worth seeing what Gustav Forsling can do over the first few weeks, especially if he's going to be logging that much more minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And again, so those two defensemen are to keep an eye out for this upcoming draft. I think this pick that I'm going to make right now for my next right wing slot is an absolute steal. Cole Caulfield dropping all the way down to 156th overall. He's going to be fully healthy, ready to go. The Montreal Canadiens are not going to be a great team, but Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Alex Newhook, they've got some young guns in Montreal. They're going to be able to score goals with Cole Caulfield back in the lineup.
He's a star.
I really like this is an absolute steal getting him 156th overall. That solidifies my forward group. I now have 3 bench spots I need to pick.
Me too.
I'm going to go back to take a look at the defensive board over here. There's not a lot of defensemen that are really jumping out. Anze Kopitar still on the board. I'm going to go with Anze Kopitar, another centerman depth there. This could be a piece that I can use later for a trade to facilitate a trade for some defensemen. Defenseman that I need to maybe keep an eye out for, because I'm not sure how I feel about my defensive group right now. But again, I'm going to go with Anze Kopitar because he still brings it. 28 goals, 46 assists, power play points, 170 shots, 68 hits. And again, he's playing with Kempe, Fiala, Quinton Byfield. He's going to absolutely dominate this year again.
Not like you shouldn't be always trying to aim to, this is a head-to-head categorical league, very standard setup. You got to obviously try and balance it out the whole draft. But when I now come to my bench slot, Steele, I'm really trying to get a little bit of everything and really fill out those peripherals. And of course, that's easier said than done, depending on how many GMs and however your league is going to shake out. But now looking at my lineup, and I'm now trying to fill bench spots, I'm going to start looking down. I don't really care so much about the rankings, right? Like, of course, I care about what the stats say and the projections say, but I'm going to start going with my gut. And if you've done research, you're going to start getting some of the players that your team needs. So I'm looking down the board a bit, Steele, at a guy like Lawson Krause, who's going to fill out a whole bunch of peripheral categories. And I think he is a very valuable fantasy piece.
Yes, he is.
And he puts shots on net, almost 200 hits. He has offensive talent, 40 to 50 points. You and I both love what's going on with the Arizona Coyotes, especially in that top 6. So I'm going to go ahead and take a guy like Lawson Krause and start to fill out my roster as much as I can.
Yeah, I think there's a few guys that I would take before Lawson
Of
Krause
course.
that are still on this
No, of
board, but
course.
I can't hate it. If you're looking for those peripheral stats,
Go
with a guy like Lawson Krause.
And I'm seriously just at this point in the draft, because you have 3 left, I'm not saying throw away your draft choices. I'm just saying I'm okay if you're doing your research, stick to your gut, do what you want to do. I want another D-man here, Steele, as now, and we've talked about this too. Make sure you balance out positional wise.
Yes.
We got on the board Shabbat, and we have Cam Fowler, Gostis Bear, Ronek, Sean Dursey. I'm going to another Arizona Coyote Steele. I'm doing it, and I'm picking up Sean Dursey.
We're loving the Coyotes right now and where they're trending and their upward trajectory. Look, this is going to be, again, a team that has struggled for a while, but the prospects and the picks that they've made, they're going to continue to get better every single year moving forward. We have them up there in that Central or Pacific Central. Doesn't matter. They're heading up there. The brain is not working clearly today. It's been a long couple of days right now.
I'm pretty sure it's the Pacific, but
it's the Pacific.
It could be the Central too, Steele. Look, this has been a long weekend. And what the main thing is here, though, is draft season is upon us, and you can't ever do too much research. Tapping into things like the pod, just giving general advice to all the listeners out there. Take in as much advice as you can. Be a sponge. That's how you're going to dominate your draft. Steele, 2 more picks here. I'm looking at my team. It's a little sketch, but that's okay.
I'm going with Tyler Bertuzzi to fill out one of my bench spots. I think he's going to get great minutes and great opportunity with the Toronto Maple Leafs and fill out those peripheral stats if he can stay healthy. So I'm going to go with Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm also going to take a defenseman for one of my last picks just to have that fifth, that extra bench spot for defensemen right now. There's a couple of lads right here. Rasmus Sandin's been interesting to me.
Wow.
Philip Ronek
still on the board.
Still on the board. I actually think I'm going to go with Rasmus Sandin, honestly, to fill out my team and get him on the bench spot, because I think he's going to really get some opportunity playing with John Carlson for the Washington Capitals.
Just a bit of a trendy kind of popular pick because of how good he looked with the Washington Capitals down the stretch last year. Small sample size, but again, it's one of those things that until we start seeing the line rushes in training camp, until we start really seeing those deployments, we are officially 1 month from puck drop, Steele, and there is still a lot of things that can change from here to there. But that's what we'll be on top of on the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're going to be all over it. And that's why we're doing these mock drafts now. We got to shake out the wrinkles, baby. And my final pick, Steele, I'm going to go to another forward. I got Matt Duchene on the board. We got Matthew Barzal with center right wing eligibility. Unless he's taken, I'm going to take him as a bench spot. I think getting Barzal in this round at this point is a steal. We know he can bring it offensively, slick skater, and a whole bunch to like about Matty Barzal. And as my last pick in the draft, I think that's a steal.
I think it is as well. No pun intended there.
Hey,
last pick in the draft, might as well go with Barzal. He has that dual eligibility. Again, could be updated to at the beginning of the season. But just to wrap things up, we got the last pick right here. Hopefully he'll choose it before these 18 seconds are up. There we go.
Michael,
that is the completed draft. We'll list off our entire team right now before we wrap things up. Finalized team for myself: Jack Eichel, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in the center position, Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Boldy in the left wing, Mikko Rantanen, Cole Caulfield, Victor Hedman, Noah Dobson, Jakob Chychrun, Shea Theodore, and then on the bench, Dylan Cousins, Anze Kopitar, Tyler Bertuzzi, Rasmus Sandin, and my 2 goalies, Tristan Jarry, Devin Levi. I'm not sure how I feel about my goalies. I think I could have done a lot better in the goalie position. But again, that's why I drafted a couple of those studs on the bench that I could use to facilitate a trade.
There you go. And I actually think looking at this draft, now that the positions have been updated eligibility-wise, Leon Draisaitl, Tim Stutzla, Panarin, Hagel, Batherson, Dawson Mercer, and my blue line again, Steele. I think it's very similar to my one in our first draft, but I'm loving it. Yeah. Heiskanen, Sergachev, Keandre Miller, and Seth Jones. In the crease, Gustafsson and Korpisalo. I've got some unproven names here. That could be a powder keg, but I'm buying into what Minnesota and Ottawa are doing. And then on the bench, Matty Barzal, Sean Dursey, Lawson Krause, and I got a little bit pooched with, I picked up Evgeny Malkin with the auto draft. Can't fully remember which one I was going for. That's not
a bad auto draft at that.
Not a bad auto draft. That's not where I would have taken Malkin. But anyway, we're going to continue to break down mock drafts. We're going to continue to break down all of our positional rankings. Steele, I'm fired up. 1 month to puck drop, baby. Let's continue to get after it.
It's so close right now. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you're tuning in Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find us Eastern time. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.
If you're a business owner, listen up. Your company could be mentioned right here. With the NHL season right around the corner, Locked On has a special locals-only NHL kickoff package. 2 local businesses, yes, only 2 local businesses can sponsor this podcast for the upcoming NHL season. Find out how you can get this exclusive sponsorship and hear your business on this podcast. Text the word advertising to 33777. or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising and let us know who you are. Our team will assist you to achieve advertising success with Locked On. Once again, text the word advertising to 33777 or visit lockedonpodcast.com/advertising. We look forward to hearing from you. Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.